Hello class. For this lesson we are going to be exploring the MASH toolset. We've got the MASH editor over here on our left, as you can see. Let me just take it out. Up here on my workspace I have MASH. Let me just open it up from scratch. I don't think it'll... Alright, there we go. I'm going to put on the attribute editor. Okay, our outliner is over here. But the one thing we are missing is our MASH. So we see that up here on our toolbar. If you notice right now we are in animation. I think MASH comes up under a few other things. I think FX and maybe render as well. Let me just open that up. I'm going to tear that off for us. Alright, so here we are, create MASH network and MASH editor. So I'm going to open up the MASH editor. I like to lodge it to the side over here. Let's see if we can do that again. Oh, there we go, boom. And then we want our outliner right next to it. You'll see why later. See, let me move that over, make a little bit more space. So let's see, let's get started. I am just going to start with a cube. Create polygon primitive cube. See, it's really, really small. All right, I'm going to make it a little bit larger. Hit R, uniform scaling. See, let's make it a little bit smaller, and I am going to make it a little bit flatter. I'm going to more or less make a tile here. So I am going to move it up so it aligns with the grid. I'm going to hold X. There we go. One more thing while we're at it, I'm going to jump over our modeling toolkit. I'm going to go to add divisions. I'm going to go underneath. I'm going to hit E for rotations, D to the rotation pivot locator. I am now going to hold down V and snap it to the center. You don't have to do those things, but let's say we're going to attach it to a surface. Those coordinates need to be exact, and everything needs to be at origin space, which is 0, 0, 0. Let me select that. I'm going to go up to shading. I am going to do... we're not going to do wireframe on shading, but you know what I'm going to do? I am going to change this thing's color really quickly. Assign new material. Lambert. Go over here. Let's see. All the way to the right on the attribute editor will be our texture, Lambert 12. I'm going to click that. We'll go with the red tile for now. You know, while we're here, let's see, I'm going to name this red underscore tile. I am going to duplicate it, and let's see, let me just select it, because it's overlapping. It's in the same spot as the other one, just so you're aware. So assign new material. Let's do another Lambert. We're going to make this one blue. Okay. Let's rename it blue tile. Let's duplicate blue tile and assign new color, assign new material, Lambert, go over here. We're going to make this one, let's make it purple. That's exciting. Okay, let's rename it purple tile. Okay. So when creating a mesh network, you need to select your objects that are going to be in the network. We could just select one item, but we're going to select all three so I can show another feature as we go get a little bit further into it. So easiest thing to do, just marquee select them all. Then we go up here to create mesh network. If we open up the options, we see that we have some different options available to us. I'm going to just do reset settings just for the sake of it. But it gives you some other options here. We really don't need to get into them right now. Let's see, let me create mesh network. So right off the bat, mesh network is created. It looks like the blue tile is the one that's being used. So what we can do, for starters, I'm going to close that. We don't need it right now. But if we go over here and we click on our mesh network, the mesh one, all of these different nodes that are available to the mesh network appear. So one of those is mesh ID. Oops. That's, where is that at? Right here. And And the Mash ID node was actually created automatically because we selected more than one object when creating our Mash network. But by default, there'll be this one, the Mash 1 or the Mash 2, whatever it is, and then there'll be a distribute node created. Now, if you look over here, we can turn these different nodes on and off by clicking this, just doing a little switch. That can be very helpful later, especially when you're organizing multiple systems together. You can also add nodes through this, as opposed to having to go over there. But the way everything's set up right now, I think, is really ideal. You know, if you're an animator, you have access to your timeline down here. We have, you know, Mash Editor, Outliner, and then we have our attribute editor / channel box / tools, whatever, on the right. Now, if we select the distribute node, we notice that all of this comes up. Now, if you look right here, we can actually create a whole bunch of them with a number of points. But right now they're kind of overlapping on one another. So if I change this number right here, we can separate them up a little bit. Let's go with 200. There we go, there's our 4. We, once again though, choose as many as you want. Obviously, it's probably it's important to us to have a relatively economic use of polygons. Sometimes I use these systems to create grass over an environment, and I make 500,000 of these at a time. So, you know, if it's just limited to 10 or 20 polys, it's ideal. If you're making a smaller network, obviously they could be a lot bigger. But anyway, I digress. So here we have all of these different attributes. So this one is changing the y, distance x, distance y. We have z offset, x, rotate y, rotate z. I believe all of these are keyable attributes. In case you want to animate them, we can even do set driven keys with them. If we go down here, we have a bunch of other more complicated advanced options available, but those aren't really necessary for this lesson. But if we go here, we can actually change the way that all of these things work together. So here now we have a radial distribution. Let's see. You see, we can do that really quick. We can change the axis of the radial distribution as well. Change the angle, z offset, strength. Don't know if that completely applies to us right here. Let's see. Let's check out some of these other ones. We got a spherical one. Let's put a couple hundred in there. Kind of see what's happening. We have mesh. So we have to connect the mesh in order for that one to work. See, let me go back here a second. I'm going to go to our distribute. I'm going to knock it back a little bit. Oops. Let's see. It wants us to connect another mesh, and that would actually be filled out. We'll actually deal with that a little bit later. The one I really wanted to mess with, though, specifically is grid. Since our some of our assignments, this would be really helpful, especially the board game assignment. So here we are. We have a grid, 3 by 1 by 3, but we have these distances here. Let's just type in 200. This one right here, it doesn't matter, distance y, simply because we're only making a grid that exists in 2 dimensions, so we can leave that one out. Let's see, let's turn that one on. Okay, so now we have 3 by 1 by 3. So, oops, let me click on distribute again. So now we could actually increase that number. So you know what, I'm going to knock this up a decent bit. Let's go with 2,000. 2,000. Now I'm going to go with 10 by 10. There we go. You know what, let's try 1,000 distance. Okay, there we go. A little bit closer together. But for the purposes of a game board, we'd probably want something more like a checkerboard or a chessboard. So we'd kind of have to figure out exactly what that number is to bring them in closer. That looks a little more reasonable. 500 it is. There we go. Once again, let's say we want to make it in another dimension. We can do that. Okay, there we go. So 10 by 10 by 10, so that looks like about 1,000 of those. I'm going to knock that back down. Now, for demonstration purposes, I would like to show off what the MASH ID node does. So the MASH ID node is right here. It says ID count, ID type linear. Well, we can mess with this. It will. But for now, I'm just going to change the ID count. So what that does, it's allowing the 3 items that we originally selected when creating the MASH network. It activates all of them as opposed to just the blue one. Now, you have a lot of control over these, like here's just random. Oops, let's leave the ID count there, but we can change the seed, and that'll change them accordingly. Now, I'm going to use the same system to create a path. I am going to go back to my I'm going to go back to my distribute node. I'm going to change it to linear. I'm actually going to reduce the distance x to 0. Now, in order to create a path, I'm going to need to make a curve node. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to select the MASH1 network. I'm then going to go over here, add curve node. As you see, we have a new node here, curve node. And over here, we have a whole bunch of options. Most of these are for animation, strangely enough, which we won't be using in this lesson. What I'm going to do, though, I do need a curve. So let's create one. Create NURBS primitive circle. Okay, there we go. It must be really small. I'm going to hit, oops. I'm going to hit R to scale it. There we go. Make it a little bit larger. Even make it a little bit larger. Okay, there we go. So what we can do is this. I'm going to click the curve node again to open this up. Now what we need to do, and this is a little tricky, especially if you don't have a middle mouse button, because I don't know how you would do this. You have to middle mouse it and bring it over here. And just drag it in, and it'll activate it. Now, as you can tell, we only have 5 of these available here. So what we could do, well, here we can change the distance between them, but we obviously need a good deal more. So we can go back to our distribute node and change our number of points. In this case, let's just go with, let's go with 50 and see what happens. Actually, no, I'm going to go with, I think, 30. Okay, 30 it is. Now I am going to click the curve node, and I'm going to change the distance between these. So let's say you were making a game like Candyland or something like that where you have a path through the game. This would be a very easy way to do this. The curve is still editable, and I'll show you that in just 1 second. I think I'm going to add a few more nodes. Let's go with 50. Okay. So I'm going to select the NURBS circle. I'm also going to simultaneously, let's go up here, I'm going to do X-ray. And I'm doing that so that I can see all of the curve control vertices. So I'm right-clicking on our curve right now. I'm going to go to Control Vertex. Actually, I don't see any of those. Let me do that again. Oh, there we are. Okay, so there's a curve control vertices. Now I can grab that, and I actually can move this around. I mean, you could have just made your path and then attached it, but I just think it's actually kind of cool because obviously this is completely animatable. If it's keyable, you can animate it. So we can move it up, we can move it down. But I think that's pretty helpful. So, so far in this video, we made the grid, and we made the kind of the checkerboard pattern, and here we made a path. Um, in the next part, I believe we will be distributing objects over the surface of a mesh.